Hey everybody, welcome back to the Snipe and Score podcast. A lot of stuff happened while we were away. I hope everybody had a happy holidays. New Year's almost here, 2026 almost here. But that means we're almost halfway into the NHL season, and we had a lot of breaking news last week. Sean, do you want to start us off with what that was?
Yeah, super unfortunate actually because we had just finished up recording an episode of our podcast and we had a couple of blockbuster deals. One in particular involved one of the best defensemen in the entire league. Quinn Hughes is on the move. So not only that, but the Oilers finally found their goalie? Question mark. I don't know. We'll discuss it. But Aidan, let's get right into it. What is your first storyline you want to discuss? I think it's the pretty obvious one.
Well, a lot of very well, maybe at the time a lot of very unhappy Canuck fans, but now I don't know. I probably not too happy. We did not see this move coming. Well, we did, just not this early. Quinn Hughes is a member of the Minnesota Wild. He was acquired on December 13th from uh, Vancouver by Minnesota. They sent forwards Marco Rossi and Liam Ogren along with Z Buium and a first round pick in this year's draft to acquire the former Norris Trophy winner from I think a couple years ago in 2023.
That's right.
Um,
23-24 season.
yes. So this is a fantastic deal for Minnesota. They get a year and a half of Quinn Hughes. They get to put him next to his, I would presume, Olympic partner in Brock Faber. And Minnesota needed it because right now it's an arms race in the Central with Colorado just not wanting to lose hockey games and Dallas being a buzzsaw just like they were last year. Um, and Minnesota needed something to help put them over the top, and Quinn Hughes definitely does that. And Marco Rossi is a good forward, but he was kind of underachieving this year. I mean, it's his first game back from injury he played, and he's been pretty solid for Vancouver so far. Leon Olgren, another guy that was he didn't have a point, and then he finally gets his first couple with Vancouver. Then Z Buium, the big piece of this trade, in my opinion. Great puck moving defenseman. Is he going to become Quinn Hughes? Probably not, but he definitely has the ability to become a top two defenseman, especially a power play quarterback like Quinn Hughes was.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we just talk about the events leading up to the trade? I thought this was kind of funny. Well, first of all, I didn't have my phone for I think an hour at the time because I'd left it in my car. It was the week before finals for Aidan and and I forgot my phone in my I forgot my phone in my car from work, so it was in there for an hour. And yeah, the amount of things that happened within that hour, I think I had like 10 different people text me. I get in the car, I scroll through Twitter, I'm like, oh, Quinn Hughes just got traded to the Wild. Didn't see that one coming. Thank you, Elliot Friedman. And yeah, that was absolutely wild. So don't leave your phone in the car for an hour because you never know what's gonna happen. Yeah, certainly
Guys,
that certainly wasn't on my bingo card when I picked up my phone after that hour.
I
Um,
saw that and I'm like, holy crap.
yeah, I couldn't believe it. But I think at the time it was surprising because there were the buzz just started to pick up, but I don't think people expected him to get traded like right then and there. I think
Absolutely not.
you started to hear some more rumors, but like I said, I don't think anybody expected him to get traded on that day. I think people thought the Canucks were going to let it milk out a little bit. And we discussed it in an episode. What was it? A few weeks ago, we talked about the fact that you know their front office is like, hey, what if we get the Hughes brothers here one day? Well, now the chances of them getting another Hughes brother in the next 20 years is probably very, 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 very slim, if basically impossible. Um, so how's the trade fare with Minnesota and Vancouver? Well, what I can tell you is Vancouver. Look, I don't I don't think this is a loss. Well, it's a huge loss for Vancouver, but I think the return is fair. I think
Yes.
Buium's going to be an excellent piece for them one day. I think Rossi is a very good. He could be a very good bottom six forward. Like I said, he was just fine in 24-25. Actually, he had back-to-back 20-goal seasons. Yeah, he was a little underwhelming to start the season this year, and in 5 games he only has 1 point for Vancouver. But
He's
once he finds his footing, I think he'll be a very solid forward for Vancouver. He's also still young, and he's on a pretty good contract too. So
he's also coming back off of injury as well.
exactly. So I think he could lives up. If he lives up to expectations, that's great. They get an additional first round pick. And the biggest part of this is Buium. Will he be Quinn Hughes? Probably not, but he could be a great, like you said, a great defenseman one day. He's still so young. Now, Minnesota fans will probably argue, all right, well, I think they had more expectations for him this season. He didn't get off to the start they necessarily wanted him to see, but at the same time, he's still so young. What is he? Our age? Like he's 20. Yeah,
He's 21.
no, he's 20. He's not even.
He's 20.
Actually, I think he just turned 20 last week, a couple weeks ago. 20 years
Yeah,
old.
he's
Uh,
a baby, as we say.
yeah, he's 12th overall pick in 2024. The guy still has so much room to grow. So much room to grow. So I think the Canucks are getting an excellent piece. Minnesota fans can argue, well, he didn't necessarily live up to expectations after last season. Well, he played for 31 games, had 14 points. Or no, excuse me, no, he just signed his entry contract. He had, yeah,
DLC.
he had 30. He played, yeah, he had 14 points in 31 games played this season. I think that alone for what a 19-year-old coming to the season is actually is pretty good. So big addition there for the Canucks. As far as Liam Ogren, well, first of all, I thought this was hilarious because Liam Ogren was our player of the day last episode, and less than 24 hours later, he's on the move to Vancouver. You literally couldn't have wrote a better script for that. That was pretty funny.
Yep.
So yeah,
One,
he moves to Vancouver. He was a first round pick in 2022.
Mhm.
Yeah, he hasn't done a ton. He played 24 games last year, only had 5 points, 2 goals. That's not to say, he's going to be a bust, right? The kid is only 21, literally our age, so much room to grow. So the Canucks are getting a couple young pieces that definitely have some potential. They also get a solid bottom 6 forward if he can live up to expectation after the injury of Marco Rossi, and an additional first round pick. So yes, Quinn Hughes, that's a huge loss. And if I'm being honest, Vancouver, I don't know if a return like that could even, seal the stitch in their heart or the
no,
scar in their heart, because Quinn Hughes was probably one of the biggest pieces they've ever had. One of the most valuable
the
pieces
the
in a long
greatest
time.
Canucks defenseman ever, and it's not even an argument.
And the fact that
Um,
they traded him while he was still in, or maybe not even in his prime yet, he still has room to
oh,
grow. He's 26 years old.
yeah. I mean, he had a year and a half left on the contract. He's got a year and a half left. But I mean, I already kind of thought there he was going to New Jersey, and then all of a sudden you hear Capital rumors, and then Minnesota out on the left field goes out and does it. I think it's obviously Minnesota wins this trade right now because they're the best player on the deal. But what Vancouver needed is they needed center depth, and they get that. They needed depth up the middle terribly.
Yep.
When David Kampf is your first line center, we have issues.
Yep.
And it's not a knock on David Camp, but he's not a top line centerman. He's a very good fourth line center, and that's that. But yeah, I think that unexpected, but it's great for Minnesota as they try to continue to make this race to maybe push for that cup finally.
Yep. And like I said earlier, I don't think any return could, stitch up the scar in any Vancouver's fans' heart. But at the end of the day, it sucks they traded away Hughes. But I guess that's just the way it is, and it sucks. And if I'm Vancouver, when the hell is this going to end? When is this going to end? Like, it must be pure hell right now for Vancouver fans. It really must be. Like, I cannot imagine that. That absolutely sucks. Can't imagine. I don't know if I'd be able to get over that for 2 months. So that's my side for Vancouver. As far as Minnesota, this is really interesting because you gave up. Well, I don't want to say 2 because I don't know how good Ogren's going to be. I do think Bouillem's going to be great.
Williams going to be fantastic.
Yeah,
He's going to be a
gonna
great
fantastic. So on one hand, you give up your best defenseman prospect, Brock Faber. Obviously, I mean he's up there too. But Bouillem, for as young as he is, he's probably their best, very young prospect at the time. You can say he didn't live up to expectation coming into the season. Whatever. My thing is, you give up him, you give up Ogren, and you give up Rossi. 3 very solid pieces that could have been part of your future going forward as you try to win a Stanley Cup. So now you trade all that, including a first-round pick, for a guy like Quinn Hughes, who you don't even know if he's going to be on your roster in less than 2 years. So they're really gambling here. Do I think it's a smart gamble? I have no idea. It all depends if they sign him to an extension. Because if they don't, it was quite literally all for nothing. If they don't win a cup and Quinn Hughes leaves, it's a horrible trade. It's a horrible trade. So they're banking and they're giving away a good portion of their future for a guy who they think can win them a cup in the next 2 seasons. And if it doesn't happen and he walks for nothing, that might be the worst walk in quite some time for any NHL team. And I mean like quite some time.
Well, first off, I want to say I don't think any Wild fans are going to say that Z Bouillem was not playing to his potential. I think he was. I think Wild fans were very content.
Caleb
with how Z
Rutherford
Bouillem was playing.
would say something else.
Well, Caleb, I love Caleb, but if that's your take on a 19-year-old coming in having 14 points in 30 games with your team as a second line, as a second pair guy that's playing a top power play unit,
But
I'd
look,
like to have a conversation.
it wasn't just him. I'm scrolling through Twitter and I see a lot of Wild fans like, yeah, 19-year-old, didn't live up to expectations coming into the season. Look, I disagree. I'm not saying I agree with him. I think he's going to be fantastic, like I said. But I heard a lot of Wild fans. Yeah. I mean, not all of them. There are some that thought he's going to be fantastic too. But Yeah, there were a good portion of Wild fans saying that, yeah, good riddance, which I thought was kind of crazy. But you got
Yeah,
Quinn Hughes for the next
that's
year and a half. So
absurd. Unless Quinn Hughes is really hell bent on playing in New Jersey with his brothers, which they need him because the other Hughes brother playing defense has been absolutely atrocious this year, and Luke Hughes, I think he extends in Minnesota, especially playing with Brock Faber, who he's been on Team USA with. He'll be there for the second time this year
mhm,
with Faber.
mhm.
He was there for the Four Nations. Bill Guerin's the GM. What else is he? He's the GM of USA Hockey. And they did a lot of stuff for Quinn, getting him to Minnesota. So I think he'll sign an extension with Minnesota. How much that's going to be, I don't know. I'm not going to try to predict it. That's a year
Oh,
and a
it's
half
gonna
away.
be a lot. It's gonna be
It's
a
going to be a
lot.
lot of money, but
I'd
that's
say
a year and a
upwards of
half away.
15 million a year.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, we're not going to discuss the numbers now. That's for hopefully 2 years from now, or whenever the extension comes out if they do sign him to one. But yeah, I think it's great for Minnesota right now. And like I said, if they don't resign him, then I feel like that they would know that, and they would probably deal him just like the Hurricanes did with Ranton. I know they get something a package back or just like that to help establish the lineup and the farm. The one problem that Minnesota has, and I think partially because of injury and partially because they just traded two centermen, their center depth is really weak. But I think that there's a couple
Yes,
guys out there they could get for cheap that Bill Garrett can go out and get and bring in and fill suffice a second or third line role.
yes,
I mean,
absolutely. No,
Daniil.
I agree.
Daniil Yurov has been really good at center. I think it's I think it might be his first full year, or maybe his second full year, but I think they need a second line guy. And rumors are Ryan Hartman might be on the block, so might be look for a swap with him involved in a trade to get a centerman.
Yep, I've been hearing people talk about Ryan O'Reilly actually to Minnesota. I don't know how much they'd be willing to give up for Ryan O'Reilly.
I don't think it'd be that much. I think it's more like a cap issue than it is a want to give up picks for him. So
But just to kind of recap of what I said, let me put it this way. So with the Wild, I love the trade, but I hate it if he leaves. I don't think they'd make that move if they're not confident that they could re-sign him. I think they probably will end up re-signing him because obviously, if they don't, it's one of the worst walks ever in free agency. You give up a good portion of your future for basically nothing. And all that being said, if they don't win a cup in the next year and a half, yeah, it was quite literally all for naught if he just walks. Because now I want to discuss the elephant in the room, like you already alluded to, the fact that he wants to go play with his brothers in New Jersey. I mean, that's no secret. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? All the Hughes brothers in New Jersey, like he doesn't have to sign an extension with Minnesota. He can just go to New Jersey and say, "Screw you guys, I'm going to play with my brothers." That's where I wanted to go in the first place, but Vancouver wouldn't do it. So that's all I'm going to say about Minnesota's stance on Quinn Hughes. It's great. It's outstanding trade if he resigns. It's horrible if he leaves. I mean, that's kind of common knowledge, but I'm just saying if you give up that portion of your future to try to win a cup and it basically allots to nothing. Yeah, that's just you got to take
mhm.
a good hard look in the mirror. Why do you make that move in the first place? But as everyone can see, I'm a Caps fan. Just want to address this real quick. I am happy we didn't trade for him because I'm not confident that I'm not confident that we would have re-signed him because just like if you're a Minnesota fan, I have no idea if he's going to resign. He might just you know he could sign in New Jersey for cheap for all I know because maybe he wants to play with his brothers that bad. I'm not risking one of the best defenseman prospects in the NHL and Cole Hudson for a guy that I don't know is going to be on my team in a year and a half, and I'm not confident could win us a championship in the time when his contract expires. Connor McMichael, I don't even know if Connor McMichael's going to be here next year, so yeah, I mean, he would have been part of the Quinn Hughes trade. That would have been fine with me because I'm not confident that we're even going to re-sign him this offseason. If we do, that's great. If not, that sucks. The Capitals could go after another big fish in the trade deadline. And McMichael's probably going to be a part of it anyway. Um, and then, yeah, I was not a fan of the potential, I was not a fan of us possibly giving up Cole Hudson. I was not on board with that whatsoever. They could have traded Miroshnichenko, Trinyev, which who
He would have
cares?
been he would have been a
Lockyer.
part of the deal.
Yeah, he would have, and that would have been fine with me. I'll miss him, and I think he's gonna be a great player. But at the end of the day, if we're trading Miroshnichenko for Quinn Hughes, sign me up. Cole Hudson's another thing though. Like that's just not happening. That's no, no.
Knowing what they would have got in return, he would have been the big piece in that trade. That would have been him.
Yeah, that really would have pissed me off.
Speaking of trades, there's another one. A couple more we got to go over, but there's another big one that happened the day before in Edmonton and Pittsburgh that has been rumored for like 3 weeks, and it finally happened. You want to talk about that, Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Tristan Jarry's on the move to Edmonton. Edmonton finally gets their goalie.
So
Um,
they thought.
so yeah, he's injured now. And if I'm being honest with you, I actually forgot what happened. Sorry.
Lower body injury.
Oh, he's got a lower body injury. He's played. Let me pull up his stats. So far he's played 3 games with Edmonton. Yeah, this is their goalie, by the way, that they want to win a Stanley Cup with. In 3 games, goal average of 3.08 and a save percentage of 88. Stanley Cup contenders, guys. Seriously, I'm not kidding. This is a bizarre trade to me, and I don't know how you feel about it. But I don't mean to be pessimistic. I'm rooting for the Oilers. I want them to win. But after 2 to 3 years of Stuart Skinner, they finally realized, all right, this guy's not going to win us a cup. We need to go out and get our goalie. And they trade for Tristan Jarry? Look, I know you had a good season last year, but the year before, 89% save percentage.
He traded for an older version of Stuart Skinner.
Sorry, but I don't get it. I do not get it. I want to hear your logic and your reasoning behind this.
I think it's a good trade for Pittsburgh.
Yes, good. I'll talk about Pittsburgh in a minute, but as far as Edmonton's stance,
So they get Jari and Sam Poulin, which is a former top prospect of Pittsburgh, didn't pan out. He's been good in the AHL, but NHL, not so much. It I didn't like it for Edmonton. I thought it was one of those like, what are you doing type of trades. Um, they've now been rumored to be in the mix for Alex Lyon, to which we will talk about the Sabres in a little bit, and we're going to talk a lot about them because they're the hottest team in the NHL right now. But uh, don't trade Alex Lyon. He's been fantastic. He's won his last 5-6 starts for Buffalo. But they're again trying to find another goaltender. Like I don't understand it. And their goaltending tandem right now is Calvin Pickard and Connor Ingram, which I mean, Pickard's been okay. Has been okay as a backup. Connor Ingram's been pretty decent as a backup in Arizona.
I don't
Had a
even
down.
know. Connor Ingram, okay, but dude,
He had a
Pickard,
he had, he had
Pickard.
a, Pickard was okay. Has been okay as a backup. Keyword
Mm.
there is okay. Is he a starter? No, he's not back in Colorado. Um, but he might have been a starter in 2017 when I was in middle school, but we're in the big 2025 and I'm almost halfway and I'm over halfway through college. Like he's not a starter anymore. Like, and that's not a shot on Calvin Pickard. The couple games he played in the playoffs last year for the Oilers, he was good, but he's not a starter.
No,
The
not at all.
Oilers, and even when Tristan Jarry comes back, Jarry is good. I think Jarry would be a fantastic backup. He's too inconsistent to be a starter.
100%.
Edmonton Edmonton should have done what Detroit did. They went out, and I know initially John Gibson did not look good for the Red Wings, but they are the hottest team in the Eastern. Well, they're the
Yep.
best team in the Eastern Conference right
Yep.
now. And John Gibson's been a big piece of that.
Yep.
I mean, they also found a gem in Emmett Finney, who should have some caller consideration this year because he's been fantastic on the top line for Detroit. But and we'll talk about the Red Wings in a little bit. But they went out and got their goaltender.
Yep.
And Edmonton sat back like, oh, Stuart Skinner's the guy. When we all knew Stuart Skinner wasn't the guy. So just another questionable decision from Stan Bowman in the front office. Yeah, I don't know what Edmonton is doing. They're trying to run McDavid out to Toronto in 2 years is what they're trying to do.
100%. Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't know about the McDavid report, but yeah, I agree. You finally realize that Stuart Skinner's not your guy a third of the way through the season, and you traded him for Tristan Jarry. Tristan Jarry is going to be your goaltender going forward. That's the guy you think will win you a Stanley Cup after finally realizing 3 years later that Stuart Skinner isn't the guy. You replace him with Tristan Jarry. Very questionable
It's
move.
like that meme. It's like that.
Go ahead.
It's like that meme with the guy that's like it says it's like the guy that has a shirt off and it's like so and so, and then after 45 days, it's like the same exact picture. Like
Alex
that's
Jones.
what this trade was.
He didn't do nothing but take a step back.
Yeah, like
exactly. Yeah,
it's
Alex Jones. No,
yeah,
yeah,
like
or the
it's
one guy where he flips over his back and it's just that another fat dude doing that weird dance move.
right.
Yeah,
It's
going from
just
Stuart Skinner to Tristan
you're
Jarry.
trading
Totally
a
no
guy
different.
you're trading a guy that's very inconsistent for a guy that's older and also very inconsistent. So like I
Exactly.
don't know what you're doing.
No, I totally agree. I don't get it whatsoever. I want to hear some Oilers fans' perspective in the comments because, like I said, I don't get it. I don't like. I've already talked about it. I just don't understand why you think Tristan Jarry is the guy. Especially this. I don't want to say this late into the season, but you know, you had a full off season to realize after 2-3 years, you know, Stuart Skinner's not going to win you a Stanley Cup. Yeah. I want to talk about Pittsburgh's perspective though, because I think this is a good trade for Pittsburgh.
It is.
I'm going to see what they got. So they get a second round pick in return, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
In 2029, so 3 years from now, but yes.
So yeah, they get a second round pick, and not to mention, look, I keep saying this, and I still stand by this. Dubas, I don't think is trying to win right now, and I think that's kind of obvious. But look, he's trying to make it so there's that kind of happy medium between, okay, we're trying to do enough to compete right now, but at the same time, I also want to lose, but I want to compete at the same time because I want Crosby to have a nice like last few years in the league. But you know, Dubas damn well wants McKenna, And we'll talk about Pittsburgh in a minute
Yep.
too. But I think he's trying to make it so they're trying to win a few games to keep Crosby happy, but at the same time, Dubas wants to lose, so he trades Tristan Jarry for basically Tristan Jarry, but a tiny bit worse.
I think that Stuart Skinner could be a decent goaltender if he's developed the right, if he gets the right goalie coach or gets the right system around him. But I think acquiring Skinner was definitely a move for the future. Get a little bit younger in goaltender, and again, like he's
And
still young.
you get another high draft pick, sort of high draft pick.
Yeah, you get a draft pick in 3 years from now that you could move for something else if you're competitive, or you can similar ammo for something down the line. And then Brett Kulak, he was a throw in. They need a defenseman. He's okay, but he's not great. But he's just another body to throw on their back end. He's a
Yep.
fine player.
Um,
He's okay.
Yeah, yeah. When Dubas was in his first year in Pittsburgh, I didn't see the vision. I didn't understand what he was doing, and I was kind of happy because he was just doing that whole Hextall thing again. I'm like, they're really going to go forward with this roster. And then at the the deadline last year, he ships everyone out for draft capital, and I'm like, all right, now he's actually doing what Pittsburgh should have done like 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So now I see the vision for Kyle Dubas, and he's doing a bang up job right now, and it's really making me mad because they started losing again. Like I said, we'll talk about it later. But I do not want them to get McKenna. Oh my god, I will lose my mind if they get McKenna. But the fact that they swapped a crappy goaltender for another crappy goaltender and got a second round pick out of it, that's just what Dubas is trying to do. He's trying to find the happy medium for Crosby, where they're still losing but trying to win a few games at the same time, like trying to stay competitive and get draft capital at the same time and get younger for the future. So I see the vision. I think it's excellent, and it's pissing me off. So what's our next trade to talk about?
So Edmonton also that same day also acquired Spencer Stastny from the Nashville Predators for a third round pick
Oh yeah,
in
that's
the
right.
2026 draft. Good trade for Nat or good trade for Edmonton. Stastny's 25. He'll be really good in the bottom pairing.
Yep.
Just kind of, and they needed some more defense depth, and I think that's exactly what it is. And Nashville gets a good return on a third round pick for a 25-year-old defenseman that was playing fairly well for him. So overall, I don't need to really go too much into it. I think it's a great trade for both. Nashville gets some defensive depth and then a younger player to get some youth in that back end because they need it because Ekholm and Nurse are kind of older. They need some youth back there, and they get that with Stastny. And Nashville get some assets, which who in a possible, it's like their first trade, and I think of many to come. Even though they have started to turn things around a little bit here recently, I don't think it'll be enough. I think that Barry Trotz, if he's smart, try to get younger, try to ship some of the older guys out for some assets, and hopefully this is a start to that.
Yeah, they've got to do that. I agree. Barry Trotz, yeah. I think he will do that. I'd like to see what Nashville does at the deadline, but it's over. It is over. Which is disappointing because they had a really good free agency last year and it just turned out to nothing. They just signed a bunch of old heads for a lot of money and it didn't work out. Aiden,
Well,
is it time?
not yet. We got a couple more trades to go over.
Okay, all right. We're saving Aiden's best for last. All right, let's go over a couple more trades.
So right before the roster freeze on Friday last week, or not Friday, excuse me. Was it Friday last week? Yes, last week on Friday. So the roster freeze kicked in, but before that, there were two trades. The first one, Pizza Man, loved former Canadian Montreal, or excuse me, loved a former Canadian back home, Philip Deneau. He was loved by the Canadian fans and got the nickname Pizza Man during their bubble year cup run. He's back in Montreal, acquired for a second round pick from LA. And that second round pick that Montreal traded was Columbus's. Just a little note there. Deneau had, it's funny because it was reported that he requested a trade. His agent Alan Walsh went on and said, "How dare you report false information?" Literally like a day later, he was traded.
Yeah, he had a very
So
feisty tweet in response to what was it, Saravalli? I forget who it was, but someone reported it and he clapped back. He was like, "You
well,
absolute buffoon." Yeah, that
if
was
it was if it was Sir Volley, I understand he's an idiot.
Aiden
And
hates Saravalli.
everybody, if you're a hockey fan, there is one insider, and I'm sorry, I don't want to trash people like this, but he deserves it. If there is one insider that you should absolutely that has some credible information, but loves to blow up the truth a lot, it's Frank Saravalli, and his comments about Michael Bublé and all that other stuff is absurd, and he should take any kind of like credibility he has, and it should be shoved down the toilet. He's just a trash person. He's a trash analyst. He's a trash insider. Like he
Dang.
literally made no, it's serious though. Like he made JJ Paterka act like he was the second coming of Yaromir Yager, and he never will be that. Like, he's a good middle six forward, and
Yeah,
he gets
I
all of
don't
his information. Serval gets all of his information from agents, and he tries to blow up the truth in what it actually is. So
yeah,
neither here or there.
I don't do enough reading or research to have an opinion on this, but yeah, I guess he's just another
Yeah,
analyst in my eyes.
but I think it's a good trade going back to the Philip Deneau trade, not Frank Stupabali. But um, we're gonna Philip Deneau. Good trade for Montreal. They needed some center depth.
Yes.
Kirby Doc went down. Alex Newhook went down. They had Nick Suzuki and Zach Bolduc, but that was really about it up front, center depth wise. And they get Deneau, who is a great defensive centerman, a little older, but he's a rental. And if he's not a rental, they sign him cheap, and he stays in Montreal, where he made a living after he got traded there from Chicago all those years ago. Um, yeah, I think it's a good trade for Montreal, and the Kings get a second rounder for an older player. It's a good trade for them as well.
Yep, I agree 100%. Kings get a second round pick. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't know if I love what the Canadians gave up for him. I don't know if I'd give up a second round pick. I don't mind the contract because he was on a 6-year deal, but now it's only a 2-year deal. So it's like 2 years, 5.5 million a year. So
Mhm.
that's low risk, possibly high reward. But I'm not sure about the high reward part because you know he didn't have a bad season. He did only have 8 goals, but he had 35 assists, so can't complain with that. But in 31 games this season, he doesn't even have a goal. He has 5 points, 5 assists. So really crappy year so far for good old Phil. Maybe he can find his footing in Montreal. Obviously, he was great with Montreal.
I think
Um,
he will.
if he
Mon-
doesn't, at the same time, he only have him for 2 years. With the cap going up, 5.5 million won't be a whole lot. We'll see what happens. I think this is actually a very solid trade for LA, given the fact they got a second round pick out of a guy who has really snuck it up to start the season so far. But maybe he can find his footing in Montreal. I think it's a decent gamble if you're Montreal, but just hope it works out, I guess.
I think it's fine for both teams because, like, Montreal plays more of a high pace style, and that might benefit to know. Whereas LA plays a more setback defensive style that, like, it's boring hockey. Whereas Montreal is super exciting. They're playing fast, and I think that might benefit to know playing with some younger guys in a little bit more of an elevated role, possibly. So that might help bring his game up a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I think it's all fair.
All right, one more trade happened right at the buzzer before the roster freeze. Mason Marchment on the move for the second time this year. He's going to Columbus for a second and a fourth round pick. Fourth round pick this year. It's the Rangers pick, and then a second round pick next year is sent by Columbus to acquire Marchment, who was acquired earlier from Dallas by Seattle. It's a good move for Columbus. They needed to add some more depth in their lineup because they have been struggling the past couple weeks, and they add Marchment, who's already had a lot of success so far in Columbus and helping get that team win some games again. And Seattle, I guess it's good asset management. They were struggling. They'd lost 8 or 9 straight games, couldn't score more than a goal or two a game. They just couldn't score. And Mason Marchment's another top 9 winger that is mainly known for his physical game, not necessarily great without a playmaker next to him, and they really wouldn't have a lot of that in Seattle. So I guess it's good asset management, trading a third for a second and a fourth. It was like they
Yep.
traded a third and a fifth, and they got him for a second and fourth. So
Yep.
I guess it's good asset management, but it's another fantastically stupid move by Jason Botterill that
You
we have all seen over the years.
you quite literally took the words out of my mouth. Sorry, were you gonna finish up?
I'm done after that comment. Like, it's just another move that I'm sitting there like, why did they do it? And I see who the GM is. I'm like, oh, that checks out.
No, you
It
quite literally took
just
the words out of my mouth. You couldn't have said it any better. Asset management, that's a plus because they basically turned a third into a second for having Mason Marchment for what, like 2 or 3 months. But at the end of the day, it's another head scratching move, a giant question mark over your head saying, why did they do it in the first place? It wasn't a good fit, to no one's surprise.
mm-mm.
But now you look at him in Columbus. So that's the Kraken side of the story. Now I look at Columbus, and Mason Marchment has actually kind of been on a tear so far for Columbus. In just 2 games, he has 3 goals. He's already one short of the 4 goals he had in 29 games with the Kraken. He had 13 points, 9 assists too with Seattle, and he already has 3 goals with Columbus. Uh, yeah, I think it's a solid move for Columbus. I would hope that they can re-sign him, um, you know, this offseason. But at the same time, if you're Columbus, you don't make these moves. You don't trade a second and a fourth to not compete this year. Because coming into the
Well,
season, sorry, go ahead.
I think that even if they aren't competing, I think that somebody at the deadline that might get desperate, like maybe a Detroit, maybe a Tampa, because Tampa loves to do this. Maybe they get a first round pick back for him. Rental, get a first back for a guy like that. And then you turn that second into a first this year. Instead of a second rounder next year, you get a first this year. So you add more that way. So I could think, and if they're good, obviously you hold on to them. You maybe resign them in the offseason. But if you're bad, if you're still, like, not really in a playoff position, I think you could probably get a second round pick back this year and just eat the second rounder you gave up next year. So I think either way, Columbus makes out like in this trade.
So number one, it's a good point. Didn't think about that. Number two, poor Mason Marchment, dude. If that happens, oh my god, dude,
Three
he's
teams
moving
in
like
one
to
year.
4 different places in less than like a year. He's started out in Dallas, goes to Seattle, goes to Columbus, and then he's got to move back down to or back to Detroit or something. Like, geez, how much moving is this guy gonna do? But no, I think that's all a fair point. Um, so Mason Marchment, if he does well in Columbus, that's great. And I hope he resigns in the offseason. But then again, if you're Columbus and you don't decide to sell him at the deadline, that's a move you make to try and compete, I guess, before the deadline. Because we came into the season with the expectation that, hey, maybe Columbus can be one of those teams that kind of sneaks into the wild card in the East. And I think this is a move you make if, you expect that to happen. So he's not the youngest guy in the league, but at the same time, I think the way he's played right now, it looks like a very solid trade because Columbus desperately needed a spark. I think they had lost 6 straight before they traded for him or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, they were on a big skid, and they actually sit last in the Eastern Conference at the time we're recording this right now. But you could see that he's fueled that spark. So as of right now, I think it's a solid trade, and hopefully he can they can start winning some games because it needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean that's good.
They can't
Are we
waste
gonna
Adam Fantilli. Like, they cannot. I got to tell you because right now,
dude?
dude,
Fantilli
it is weird.
and
Someone needs to explain what's going on right now because it's very bizarre what's going on right now with Adam Fantilli. I know he's still young, so much room to grow, a
Ken
lot of
Johnson.
potential. Yeah. That's right. It's bizarre right now what's happening in Columbus, but they just need that spark, and I think Marchman can provide that hopefully. But they need to start winning some games because
Hey man, all I'm saying is I've heard rumblings that Bill Byram. We love Bill Byram after what he did against Ottawa, legacy game. I wish he'd do that more often so this conversation wouldn't have to happen. But there's been rumblings that he might be on the block for a top six forward. I'm just saying the GM that we're going to talk about after we talk about the firing that
okay,
happened
dude.
after that. But
Okay, dude.
just saying, Kent Johnson, Bill Byram, maybe throwing
Okay,
a couple
dude.
picks,
Okay, dude.
maybe do it. I
If
don't
they
know.
do that, that's ridiculous. If Columbus makes that move, I'll pay dinner for you, dude. That's never. I If they do that, that's ridiculous. If Columbus makes
It's,
that move, come on.
they're more likely to trade Chinikov, but that's okay.
It's just for
Um,
Byram. I don't.
no, I said throwing. I said throwing a couple picks.
Still.
Never know. All right, there was one more firing before we get to the big one that we're saving till last. Maple Leafs on a skid. They were last in the Eastern Conference when this happened. They fired power play coordinator and assistant coach Mark Savard. That was the only move, and the rumor was from Pierre LeBrun that they're going to be in-house hiring. I mean, it's deck chairs. The Leafs overall, I think, are struggling because they don't have any scoring. Matthews has been terrible, has been bad. The core four guys, I guess the new core four of Nyes, Nylander, Matthews, and Tavares have not been good. Nylander just scored his first goal at 5-on-5 in over a month in their last game against Pittsburgh. They just have been a bad hockey team.
You're a jinx, man,
And maybe
because you had him as your stud, and he's sucked ever since.
he's been terrible. And I think that, I mean, maybe getting Chris Tanda back in the back end will help them out, but man, this Leafs team has been just a train wreck.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they need to do to turn it around. If they come out and they get blown up by Ottawa, you got to start thinking that Berube's got to go, which is crazy to think because they won the division last year in the middle of the second round last season, and they're just like a completely different team. And
Oh yeah.
part of that's Mitch Marner being gone, and the other part of that is I think that the guys that you're expecting to perform aren't performing. Because, like I said, their bottom six has been great, but their top six has been terrible. And when that happens, you're going to lose a lot of hockey games. So,
Yeah, it kind of feels like the Rangers all over again because they brought in a guy last year who had won a Stanley Cup. They didn't win the President's Trophy, but they're the best team in their division. And a year later, they haven't. No, they face planted. I know they're above 500, but they're second to last in the Eastern Conference. Yes, the Eastern Conference is kind of clustered. We're almost halfway through the season now, so it's not like they can. I'm not saying they can't make a jump. That's still very possible.
right.
But the way they're playing right now, yeah, it doesn't look like it. It's very reminiscent of the New York Rangers when they had Laviolette, right? In that second year, it was a complete faceplant. And if this continues, they have to fire Berube. I know. Look, they just fired that assistant coach, and
Mark's
now,
word.
right, and now the I think ownership or the general manager recently came out and he supported Berube. He said he's our guy. But if this continues, you can't tell me they're not looking at him at the end of the season and saying, "Yeah, this is the coach we want with the team we have now going forward." There's no way. So you can say that all he wants to now, but I guarantee you at the end of the season they've got to make a change if this continues. If they are truly going to sit eighth in the Atlantic with the team they have now, with Matthews still in his prime, that's ridiculous. Berube's got to go if that continues.
So does
So
tree living, but that's a conversation for later, not now. The tree living also has to go, but
But yeah, I mean, we could talk about the Maple Leafs all week. I don't know if anything's going to change, but dude, they're a total mess. I mean, it's a train wreck
they're
right now. Is happening in Toronto. Like I said, I know the East is clustered. They're only 3 points out of seventh place, and I mean they're actually only 5 points out of fourth place. And as a matter of fact, they're only 6 points out of third. So literally anything could happen. Literally anything. You never know. It's just that's the Eastern Conference right now. The best, the the best team in the Metro could be in second to last place in a week if they have a little bit of skid. That's how weird the East is this year.
speaking of a team that also made some moves over the break that made a certain podcast co-host very, very happy, and that is a couple points out of getting back to the realm of can't believe it. Buffalo Sabres, man, they finally have ended every Sabre fan's torture of the last 5 years. Last week, they fired general manager Kevin Adams and hired senior advisor Jarmo Kekalainen as the new general manager. And as that happened a couple days later, assistant GM Jason Karamos was fired. Mark Bergevin was hired as associate GM, as well as Josh Flynn getting brought in from Columbus to be the assistant GM. He worked with Yarmo pretty much his entire career in Columbus, so a couple moves have been made in the front office. As a Sabres fan, I got my Christmas gift way early. I had been jumping for months, like 6 months, saying Yarmo needs to be the GM. Yarmo needs to be GM. They give it to me. They bring in Bergevin, another experienced guy, Josh Flynn, another guy that's got experience building this front office up to make a competent team. And since then, well, since the news that Adams is getting fired, which is halfway through the Western Conference trip, the Buffalo Sabres are the hottest team in the NHL. They're also my studs for today. They have won 7. Yes, for the first time since 2018, they have won 7 straight games. They are now 2 points back of a wild card spot, and they're playing their best hockey at the right time. The November-December slump has not happened for the first time in 14 years, it feels like, and it looks to be hopefully they have turned a corner here and start to play good winning hockey back in Buffalo.
Yes, hopefully. That's the key word. Hopefully. Because you can talk about Yarmo, you can talk about the way they're playing right now, but Aiden, I got to believe it to see it. No, I got to see it to believe it. The other way around. Yeah,
Well,
look,
apparently
go ahead.
apparently Sabre fans has, because for the first time in a long time, there's a game tomorrow, and it's been a day ahead of time, and the game is sold out. And we know how Buffalo fans have been about the team. It's like, well, they suck. We're not going. They have sold it out tomorrow against Boston. And the building is going to be full. And if the fans are coming back, that means the fans have some faith. And I think it's going to be a good thing. And the players love it. And I mean, I think once the players realize that, you know, being good, you will get the fans back, and the fans are just as crazy as Bills fans. They're going to win a lot of hockey games. So let's see if they can make the streak 8 tomorrow against Boston. Personally, think they should. The Bruins, I think, are a little bit of a tailspin, and I think the Sabres are a better team than they are. Just shut down their top line, and you pretty much beat Boston. That's how I see it. It also has helped that the Sabres are getting healthy. They've got Michael Kesselring back. He has been not so great. They got their big piece of the trade deadline last year. Josh Norris is back, and he's been playing phenomenal. He's got 8 points in 11 games. I don't even have to look it up, and I know the number off the top of my head. Made a couple call ups. Noah Oslin's got 6 goals. He's been fantastic playing on the second line with Norris and Tuck. Darlene's back to looking like Norris form. And their goaltending has been fantastic. Alex Lyon has won his last 6. UPL played against New Jersey. Might be turning it around, we hope. Had a great start in that game against the Devils. Thompson's scoring again at a really good rate. And yeah, they're starting to finally get healthy at the right time. Greenway's back. Hopefully they're going to get Zucker back here soon. Same with Tyson Kozak, possibly should be back this week. And then obviously Yuri Kulik's still out. We don't know when he's back. He had a blood clot, so we'll see when he's back. And Connor Timmins will probably be back around February after he broke his leg this week against Philly. Yeah, I think as long as Buffalo can continue to play their brand of hockey, which has been score a couple goals and then dump it and lock that neutral zone up and don't allow any grade A chances, that's playoff hockey. winning games 3-2, 3-1. Like that's how you win games in the playoffs, and that's the way it's been looking a lot. You get to the third period and you're sitting there yawning because you're seeing dump and chase, or not even dump and chase, just jump and change. And then you're blocking the neutral zone, clear out the opportunity, and then you're doing it all over again. That's what you do in the playoffs most of the time is you're pushing for offense here and there, and then you're just chipping it out in the neutral zone and getting a change, getting fresh guys in, and just playing defense. And that's what I've been seeing out of Buffalo Sabres hockey. That's why they're last in expected goals for, because they're scoring a couple of goals early and they're getting the lead, then they're locking it down, which is how the good teams do it. So hopefully it's sustainable. And I think unlike the year they won 10 straight, this is sustainable hockey. It's not it's not like they're coming back in games down a couple goals and going to overtime or shootout and winning there. No, they're having leads early in games. They're holding on to them, or if they are giving them up, they're going to overtime and then winning those games in overtime and shootout. That's sustainable hockey. And I think the Sabres, if they continue to do it, they will be a playoff team. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I just, like I said, keyword there is hopefully. I just,
Like I said,
I just,
I
go ahead.
I think all of us, and I think that's pundits and other teams and other fans like yourself, we're cautiously, like, you got to see it first, and that's how we are. We're cautiously optimistic that Yarmo's finally the guy to get it around. And obviously, with the way that Rasmus Dahlin acted when he heard that Adams was, well, when they got asked about it, Dahlin was with a smile on his face, the biggest smile I think I've seen from him in a very long time. He's like, I think he's the guy to do it. And if the players have got that and they got that buy-in, then I think that's what matters.
I think that's
And
great.
obviously,
And I think it's great that all the fans, dude, after a decade and a half, will actually, like heartache for literally ever, like forever,
mhm.
sold out, right? They're on a tear right now, and the fans still come back to watch the games. I think it's incredible. The Capitals have one bad game, and the stadium is like practically empty.
Yeah, it's,
But yeah,
everybody
I think it's excellent that Buffalo, for as great of a fan base that is, after all the heartache they've had forever with the Sabres, in just a little bit of heater and a general manager change, you got the whole arena sold out. I think that's excellent.
well,
My thing is that I don't know if I trust Jarmo Kekalainen and some friends to get it done right now, because the way history has repeated itself for 15 years, like you said, I think cautiously optimistic is the best word you could possibly use, because that's what I am right now. I quite literally have to see it to believe it. So I think cautiously optimistic is the best word to use right now, because he made the playoffs in 5 times in 11 seasons with the Blue Jackets.
10.
I think in 10 seasons. Okay, as a general manager in Columbus, and he made it to the second round once, I believe, and then he lost in the first round all the other times. And look, I'm not saying that to be pessimistic. I'm just saying I don't know if he's the guy. Do I think he's the guy to get him to the playoffs? Yeah, sure. I think he might be able to do it once. I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I have no idea. But could it happen? I wouldn't rule that out. I just don't know when, because I'm just going by what history has showed, and that's the thing with the Sabres. That is the thing with the Sabres. And you know that, and yeah, I quite literally need to see it to believe it.
My last couple notes on them is that anybody in Buffalo will tell you it's a hockey town over a football town, which sounds absurd, but it's true. And B, they're just like the Bills back in the mid 2000s, where they had that 10 or that 17-year playoff drought. Like, well, they're close. We got to see it to believe it. And the final day, it took one big play from the Bengals, shout out Andy Dalton and Tyler Boyd, to make that dream a reality. And then after that, they missed the playoffs 1 year, and they made it 7 consecutive years after that with good people upstairs. So, like I said,
Yep.
maybe this is our Brandon Bean type of hire that, like I said, I think most of anybody in Buffalo, we don't even care how far we go in the playoffs. We could get swept in 4 games, and I think we wouldn't give a crap.
And that's what I'm saying.
Just
I think Yarmo could be
we
that
just
guy.
want to get there. We just want to end the drought. We
Yep.
just want to
And
get there.
That's what I'm saying. I think Yarmo could possibly, cautiously optimistic, could be that guy. Will he get you a Stanley Cup? No, sorry, he's not going to do it.
That's just
but
get us
will he
there.
get you? Will he get you a playoff appearance for the first time in the last 15 years? Possibly. I think I have more confidence in him than I would Kevin Adams, obviously.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Because the way the East is so clustered right now, if this continues and they just keep this up for the next 40 games, they're making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows if that happens though? So yeah, it's.
We'll see.
I don't mean to be mean when I say this. It's the Sabres. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm sorry, man.
I understand it.
Okay. Yeah. That's my thing. That's my thing. I'm sorry. But you know what? You can laugh and point at my face if they do make the playoffs. You can do that.
No, I ain't gonna laugh and point in your face. I'm gonna give you a hug while crying because I can't believe what I just saw.
But let me give you a rundown of how it works. You have to win 4 games in order to get to the first round, and if you do that 4 more times, you win the Stanley Cup. Sorry. All right. We'll move next topic.
Who's your stud?
My stud is the Detroit Red Wings. I actually saw them play in Capital One Arena. They absolutely kicked my team's ass, 5-2. It was horrible. It will. Oh my god. Well, first of all, it was a great experience. Except for the actual hockey game itself. Go down Capital One Arena with some of my buddies from middle school. Shout out Johnny Jaggers, Mario Suarez, Joseph Moran, um, and Lucas Brown, my Penguins buddy. I hate the Penguins. Screw you, Lucas. No, I'm just kidding.
Now we're
Um,
talking about him.
but Lucas hates the Capitals so much that he brought a Red Wings jersey to the game. That's right. He even went as far as to grab a Red Wings jersey from a fan and bring it to the game. Not even a Red Wings fan. He's a Penguins fan, which is how much he hates the Caps. I guess I'd do the same thing if if I were going to a Penguins game too, but that's besides the point. The Red Wings are on an absolute tear. Oh, quick shout out to a guy I follow on Twitter, Capsboy Bebop. Noah, I know he's not going to watch this, but this guy I followed on Twitter for 4 years. I actually got to meet at the game. He's the reason why I have a flag in my room of David Pastrnak's tweet saying, in my opinion, Tom Wilson is the best goal scorer in the league. Yeah, it's a whole story, but any Caps fan who follows Noah on Twitter knows he's hilarious, and I cannot believe I actually had the chance to meet him in person. He was the nicest dude ever. Nicest dude ever. So yeah, that was very, very, very cool for me. So yeah, got to meet that dude from Twitter. Anyways, stop talking about the Caps and my experience at Capital One. Time to talk about the Red Wings, who are the second best team in the Eastern Conference right now. And I gave them hell coming into the season. I shat on their offseason. I didn't think they did anything. Their trade deadline
Same.
last year was goofy. It was
Pitiful.
weird. And I really thought they were missing, that grade A piece to put them over the edge. Well, I guess they didn't really need it because if they continued the way they're playing right now, they're making the playoffs. And they could actually be a solid threat in the playoffs. Raymond's excellent. Brickett's excellent. Larkin's excellent. They're all on a tear.
Mort Sider's playing Norris level
Oh yeah,
hockey
he
right
is.
now.
Yep, I was just about to say. Yep, 29 points in how many games? 38. Yeah, 38 games. Uh,
And they somehow found the gem in the rough, which we talked about earlier. Matt Finney playing on the top
yeah.
line,
Yep.
19 points. He's not getting enough recognition. The caller voting with Schaefer and Demidov, but he's been absolutely fantastic for him. I mean, with guys having down years like Casper's been like the other guys like and Gibson, he's he's a below both their goalies are below 900. Him and Talbot, and they're all averaging over 3 goals a game, but it doesn't matter because Detroit's scored 5 and they're winning. So
Yep.
we'll see if that's sustainable or not. I don't think that is to score 5 goals a game and the other team score 4. But if they can find a way to get their defense, like we said a couple weeks ago, if Detroit can find a way to get their team defense a little bit better and the goaltending to be a little bit better, they'll be fine. But like I said, it hasn't been them yet. And well, how the Eastern Conference is right now, it probably won't this year. But if the Eastern Conference is just a little bit tighter, as in like the bad teams are actually bad and the good teams are actually good, then they'd probably not be a playoff team. But they got lucky in a year where the Eastern Conference is so spread out and wide open that they can play wide open hockey and get away with it.
Yep. And I'll say this too. The whole team themselves are playing great, dude. If they just had like a grade A goaltender, oh man, John Gibson struggled. He struggled a lot, but he's doing enough to, I guess, allow them to win some games. But I'm seeing visions of John Gibson from 22 to 24 with his like couple last seasons with Anaheim. I mean, with the exception of last year, obviously, because he was on a tear last season. Well, in the 29 games he played. But yeah, no, he struggled so far in Detroit, but I guess that's the gamble that Detroit wanted to take when they acquired him. I don't think Anaheim didn't retain any salary. And Detroit's eating all that, I believe. And I think he's with them next year as well. So we'll see if John
Yes.
Gibson shapes up to be, a Stanley Cup playoff, caliber goaltender because they're really going to need him to step up if they do make the postseason. But right now the team is playing excellent. So Detroit's my studs for this week. And yeah, like I said, I literally saw them in person absolutely destroy my team. It was the worst. It was the worst game I've ever seen from the Capitals in person. Like, yeah, it was bad. The Capitals are on a skid recently.
Talking about a team that is on a monster skid, it's the Penguins. They have won 1 game in their last 10. It's pet. They've blown multiple leads to different teams. They blew a 5-1 third period lead against the Sharks, lost in overtime. Blew a 3-0 lead against Utah, lost in overtime. They are besides Sidney Crosby, Brian Russ, Yevgeny Malkin, and like Anthony Mazda and Justin Brazeau, they have been bad.
Yeah.
And they need to be sellers at the deadline. I don't think they're gonna be able to turn it around. They need to be sellers. Yeah, Brett Kulak's a -7 with 2 points in the game. So like I said, he's been Like Stuart Skinner below a 9, Seahawks below a 9. Their goalie Sergei Murashov. He's good in the AHL, not NHL ready yet. He's been their best goalie save percentage wise through 5 games, but that's only 5 games. Real small sample size, but yeah, Pittsburgh on a downturn. Sorry, Ryan Barry, that your little the
Dude, are
Linsanity
you
run to
kidding?
start
Dude,
the year.
Ryan Berry should be happy right now, man. They're not supposed to make the playoffs. I said this earlier. They should be losing right now, Ryan. You should be happy, man. Like they
They
won
are.
McKenna. This is all part of Dubas's plan. So I understand they're playing crappy hockey, which is why they're your duds. I understand that, but this is all part of Dubas's plan. He's trying to find the happy medium so Crosby is happy that they're winning a few games, but he wants a chance in the lottery for McKenna. Like that's all
Mhm.
part of the plan. So I guess my thing is with Pittsburgh is that they're supposed to be underwhelming. Like
Yeah.
this is the Pittsburgh team we envision coming into the season. But yeah, at one point, like you said, they're on top of the Metro. Like last month, that was beyond
Mhm.
surprising to me.
This is like a Saber-esque type of thing that happened to Pittsburgh. That they're really good to start the year, and then like November, December hits, and they're awful, and they go on a couple monster skids,
Yeah.
and that's what's happened. I'm gonna just say, Brazo, Anthony Mantha, watch out for a couple guys that get a pretty decent return in the traded line.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree because like I said, that's all Dubas wants is draft capital, and that's what he's going to get at the deadline. And it makes me mad because they should have done it 3 years ago, and they're finally starting to do it, and they've made some pretty solid trades. The only one that was obviously a head scratcher was McGrory, but other than that, they got a second for Bavillier, like Anthony Bavillier, who's solid bottom six on the Caps, but a second round pick. Yeah, I mean he's really maximizing literally every single person's trade value on that team in the past year. So props to Dubas, and yeah, in 5 years when all these prospects develop and are solid hockey players, I think Pittsburgh's going to be a three-headed monster again if they
Mm.
find some gems in the rough. Diamonds in the
Another
rough.
Linsanity, another Linsanity run that was killed in the last couple weeks, but not because of bad play, partially, but not the complete reason, but by injury. Sean, you want to talk about your dud?
Yeah, so mine's kind of similar to the Penguins, and I didn't really know who to pick for a dud. I was debating on the Canucks, but after the Quinn Hughes trade broke everyone's heart, and obviously they're playing really crappy hockey right now. But I'm not going to talk about the Canucks because they're kind of where everyone kind of envisioned. I guess they weren't really supposed to be playoff contenders. And I guess you can say the same about this team, but I'm going to talk about the Chicago Blackhawks because they were kind of in the middle of the pack
They
in
were in a
the
playoff spot.
Central. Yeah, I guess they were in a playoff spot, surprisingly. They were in the middle of the pack in the Central, and they lost Bedard. And dude, they have been playing crappy hockey. I mean, it's been like really bad hockey. That's the only reason why they're my dud. I mean, they were supposed to be underwhelming coming into the season. It's just, man, when are they going to get it together? Like they are
They
wasting
also
Bedard. They're wasting him. I just it's
they also lost Frankie Nazar
Yep, they
because
lost
even
Nazar too.
with Bedard, they were playing pretty decent hockey and they were playing fun hockey. And as soon as
Yep.
Bedard left, they've just been a tailspin. Like Spencer Knight's been fantastic for him. He's 10-10.
Yes. Yep.
He's,
And
he's got
honestly, dude,
5 and 9-14.
my friend, the Lucas guy that I was talking about, the Penguins fan, even kind of threw out his name for maybe you see him in the Olympics, maybe soon someday.
Mm,
I don't know. I wouldn't rule it out. I don't know.
Spencer Knight?
You could not this year, but maybe in the future. I don't know.
What national? You're an American?
Yeah,
I could see.
he's American.
Yeah, not this year. Well, it depends when Hellbuck's back. So no, so it'll be Hellbuck, Ottinger, and Swayman. So no, not this year, but maybe.
Dude, Swayman and Knight in 4 years. That debate, yeah. I mean, if Knight keeps playing the way he is, and Swayman, regresses, yeah, I could see that swap.
Baby. But speaking of international play, the 2026 IIHS World Juniors have started today. Couple finals today. Sweden beat Slovakia 3-2. Finland over Denmark 6-2. And right now the Americans, the two-time defending gold medalists, not the favorite this year. A little bit of a weaker roster. I think Canada and Sweden are the two favorites. Canada having a better roster this year. Coming in, they play later tonight against Czechia, which is another team that would be a favorite, even though they have possibly lost Radim Merka, Sabres prospect, one of the higher profile prospects for them at the tournament with an undisclosed injury. He might not be there for the tournament, but the Americans are up 6-3 on the Germans right now as well. Tomorrow, a couple games upcoming. It appears it's Slovakia and Germany, Latvia and Canada. Let's see if the Latvians can pull up another upset like last year. And then USA, Switzerland, and then Denmark and Czechia tomorrow. So yeah, it'll be an interesting tournament. We'll probably kind of keep updating you guys throughout the entire eternity of when we it's a 2 week tournament ish, so we'll probably update you for what's going on when we do our podcast. But yeah, just something to keep track of if you like prospects or draft people or people coming up in the draft, or you just like watching the U18 or the U20s and this fantastic tournament. I love watching it every year. You get to know guys that you might not know of. I knew who Troy Terry was before he was a Duck, so because of this tournament and what he did against Canada, when he pulled the TJ Oshie the one year and scored 3 or 4 times in the shootout to win a game for the United States. So yeah, just the World Juniors is happening, and I think it's a really good time. So if you have NHL Network or a place to watch it, definitely watch it because these kids are good, and it's a fun time to get to know some of the future next generation of stars possibly in the NHL.
Yep, agreed. Aiden, do you want to get to the
But
player of the day?
yes, because I finally remembered mine, and mine has and I really really like it because I wish we could show the clip from it because there's a really great goal call that is one of my personal favorites that's involved with this player that I have.
Can I do my player of the day first? Because you're probably going to get this in like 5 seconds. But I
Sure.
thought this would be an interesting one because of recent events, I guess. So he started out with Nashville. I'll just tell you, he's a forward. He was drafted 4th round by Nashville in 2009. He played with Nashville until 2020, and
Mm-hmm.
then played, let's see, 2.5 seasons in Boston, and he was traded to Washington in 2023. He played there for half a season, and they signed with the Stars in 2023. So during that offseason.
Mm-hmm.
After that season, he signed with the Blackhawks, and then this was last year, right? 2024, the deadline, got traded to the Red Wings. Who is this forward I'm talking about?
Craig Smith.
Yep, you got it. I knew that was going to be easy. He just retired,
It's
so I thought it'd be interesting to call him out.
took me a second to figure it out who it was. Craig Smith, good or top 9 player for Nashville during those cup contender years, and yeah, he's a pretty good player, and he had a pretty good career for a guy. He's a guy I think would just he maybe would have a vote for Hall of Very Good, but yeah, definitely a solid player,
Yeah, no, I
solid
agree.
NHLer.
Yeah, no, he was a good piece on Nashville during their little cup run.
All right, well you're probably not going to get this, but it's okay because it's
Ah,
all right. So my player, I believe he is undrafted. Uh, I will give you a hint. He is from USSR, so Russia, that area. He made his NHL debut at 22 with Philly in 2000, 2001. And then I'm assuming he signed in Tampa Bay, where he spent the next 4 years from 2002 to 2007. Then he went to the Islanders for a year in 07, 08. Then he went to Pittsburgh for a couple of years in from 2008 to 2010. Then he spent 2 years with the Rangers in 2000 from 2010 to 2012, and then he finished up back home in Philadelphia in 2012, 2013. This player scored 137 or 173 goals for 336 points. Who is he?
oh, not a freaking clue. Who is it? Seriously, no idea. Just saying. I couldn't even give you a guess.
To quote Gary Thorne in a Stanley Cup overtime or a Stanley Cup goal in Game 7 against the Calgary Flames when he played for Tampa Bay, Fedotenko! It's Ruslan Fedotenko.
You got me. Congratulations.
I really wish we could include that little quip where Gary Thorne goes, he's got another one, and then it's like the second Fedotenko. It's
Yeah,
a
I wish we
fantastic
could, but
goal
then we
call.
get copyright strict. So
It's
yeah, can't play
it's a fantastic goal call. If you get a chance, look it up on Gary Thorne's best calls. It's fantastic. He scored 2 goals in that game, deciding Game 7 over Calgary in 2004 to win that cup for the Lightning, their first of what would be 3. Um, with the other 2 coming in these past 5 years, and the new with the bubble and the COVID stuff. But that'll be it for us today. I hope you all have a fantastic new year. We'll see you after that at some point. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Yeah, throughout sports, we got a lot of good football content coming up with Ryan and James, with the playoffs coming up here soon. A lot of new storylines coming up. No Chiefs, probably no Ravens, no Lions. Whole different ball game this year for coming to the playoffs. So make sure you guys watch for that. And hey, we're almost halfway through the NHL year, and we'll be sure to be in with that. But any last words, Sean?
No, this is a great episode. I love talking about all the trades, Jari, Hughes, yeah, some blockbusters. This was exciting.
But yeah, so we'll see you guys next time. Thank you for tuning in. We always appreciate support, and we'll see you next time. Have
Yep,
a good
hope you
night,
guys
guys.
enjoyed. Have a good night.